Tonight, you'll walk through ancient Rome at night. Slowly, quietly, with nothing to solve and nowhere to hurry. The lamps are already burning low along the stone streets. The fountains are speaking to themselves in the courtyards, and the last voices of the evening are softening behind wooden doors. You do not need to remember anything from tonight. You do not need to learn anything. You do not need to follow a story. You are only here to drift through warm stone, dim water, quiet footsteps, and the slow feeling of a city settling into sleep. So let your breathing loosen a little. Let your shoulders soften, and let the day move further away with each step. If this gentle walk helps you rest, you can always return tomorrow for another night journey. But for now, there is nothing to keep up with, and nothing at all to hold. There is only Rome at night, and the feeling of being gently carried through it. Ahead of you, an archway keeps a little pocket of amber light. Beyond it, a lane of shadow. Beyond that, the suggestion of another courtyard, another pool of stillness, another place where the night has already gone on, without asking anything of you. You may simply enter it, and rest there. You begin beneath a tall arch, where the stern still keeps a little warmth from the vanished day, and the night air moves through it as softly as water through reeds, carrying the faint smell of olive oil, worn leather, dust, and cooling plaster. A lamp hangs from an iron hook and trembles once in the dark, and for a moment the pavement shines in broken patches beneath it, uneven and old and polished by ordinary crossings. Nothing asks you to know exactly where you are. Nothing asks you to learn. You are only walking, and Rome is only quiet around you. The lane is narrow at first, with high walls that do not feel confining so much as sheltering, like being held inside the city's last exhale. Somewhere above, shutters have been drawn in for the night. A strip of cloth forgotten on a line gives one small stir and then rests again. The world here is made of little endings. A bowl set down after supper, sandals slipped off beside a bed, a stool tipped under a table, a door pressed softly into its frame. Even the silence feels arranged by human hands. It is not empty. It is inhabited by routine. The lane opens gently into a courtyard, where a fountain stands dark as polished ink. Water slips from one lip of stone into another, with a patient sound that does not break the quiet, but deepens it. A fig tree leans over the paving from one corner, and under it there is a bench worn smooth in the middle, as though generations of tired people have chosen this very place to rest after heat and work. Tonight no one sits there, and yet the bench does not feel abandoned. It feels content simply to remember company. You move across the courtyard without haste. Light from two upper windows falls down the wall in pale golden rectangles, and though you do not hear words, you can imagine the smallest evening sounds behind them. Cloth being folded, a cup being set aside, the hush that comes when people grow too tired to keep talking. In one doorway, sandals have been left neatly side by side. In another, a broom leans against the jamb, forgotten until morning. Rome is not grand from where you walk. Rome is domestic. It is a city of doors closed kindly against the dark. Beyond the courtyard, a passage descends by a few shallow steps, and the air becomes cooler there, touched with the mineral damp of nearby water. A cat slips between two jars set under an awning, and disappears as if the shadow itself has folded over it. Somewhere in the distance, a cart rolls once over a rough patch of road, and then is gone. The sound does not disturb the peace. It only reminds you that even now, in these deeper hours, the city still has a pulse, soft, far away, and steady. At the end of the passage, you come to a street wide enough for the sky to appear above it in fragments between the roof lines. The stars are dimmer than the lamps below, but gentler, and the buildings face one another across the paving, as though in an old and quiet conversation. One doorway is framed by climbing leaves, another by a pair of clay vessels catching light along their rims. In an upper room, a lamp is being lowered, and the glow shrinks slowly behind a curtain until it becomes a warm ember, and then nothing at all. It is an intimate thing to witness a city going to sleep, one room at a time. You pass a workshop front, closed with wooden panels, their grain silvered by night. A stool sits outside, left there by someone too tired to carry it in. and beside it is a shallow basket holding curls of scrap wood. The dry, clean smell still lingers. Further on, there is a doorway with a faded painted border, and on the threshold, a washing bowl half full, catching a small disc of lamplight on its surface. Every object feels still mid-breath. Nothing has been arranged for display. Everything is resting because the people who use it are resting too. Soon the road rises slightly and bends beneath a covered walkway supported by columns whose shadows fall in repeating bands. Here your footsteps become softer, closer, as if the stone floor and ceiling are gently collecting them. There is comfort in repetition, column after column, pool of light after pool of shadow, the same slow rhythm carrying you onward until your thoughts begin to loosen from the day and move at the pace of the architecture. Rome does not hurry you. Rome gives you shapes to walk between and silence to fill them. At the far end of the colonnade, you pause beside a small shrine set into a niche blackened faintly by old smoke. A single flame still burns there, low and steady. Someone earlier stood where you stand and made this tiny point of brightness against the dark. Beside it rests a simple offering, a sprig of greenery, a dish, a little cup, nothing ornate, just care made visible in the smallest form. You look only briefly before moving on, because even reverence here feels restful, folded into the night as naturally as breathing. The street narrows again. Above you, a line of laundry crosses from one house to another like a pale ribbon. Below, water from an unseen channel murmurs behind the wall. A sleeping city is full of hidden music. Basin water, distant sandals, a door settling on its hinges, leaves touching plaster, flame meeting oil. The more you notice, the less you need to think, and so you keep walking, deeper into the lamplit calm, past courtyards and quiet homes where the day has finally laid itself down. Somewhere ahead, there is always another low lamp, another arch, another suggestion of water, another corner turning softly into shadow. You do not need to arrive anywhere. The street carries you gradually toward a broader space where the city seems to loosen its shoulders. The walls pull back. The sky opens a little more. A line of columns receives the last of the lamplight along one side, while on the other, a row of doorways sits in patient shadow, each with its own small signs of ordinary life. A folded cloth on the sill, a jar tucked near the wall, a pair of sandals turned outward for morning. You feel that the night here is not emptiness but permission. Permission for every surface to cool, for every voice to soften, for every tired hand to release its work at last. A fountain lies ahead, at the center of the square, and though it is larger than the one you passed before, it speaks in the same calm language. Water slips, gathers, settles, begins again. The basin holds reflections so gently that the lamps above seem not mirrored but remembered. On the paving nearby there are scattered leaves, a dropped cord, the faint arc of wheel marks turning away. Nothing gleams with perfection. Everything carries the soft dignity of use. Even the square, open and spacious beneath the night, feels lived in rather than displayed, like a room from which the people have stepped away only briefly. You cross it slowly. Under an arcade to your left, a merchant's counter has been covered with linen for the night, and the fabric hangs motionless in the still air. Crates are stacked neatly behind it. A balance scale has been left in place, its arms barely visible in the dimness, as if trade itself has gone to sleep standing up. Nearby, an empty cup rests on a ledge where someone forgot it after the last task of the evening. It is these little remnants that keep the city close and human. They make the dark feel warm. They remind you that all through Rome people have ended their day in gestures no larger than these. Beyond the square you enter another colonnade, this one broader, cooler, and touched by a drifting current of air. The columns are pale where the lamps catch them, and nearly invisible between, so that you move through a pattern of appearance and disappearance, form and softness, certainty and blur. Your footsteps echo very lightly, never sharply. Somewhere ahead, another pair of steps answers, and then fades. Perhaps someone returning home late, perhaps only a guard turning a corner far away. The sound dissolves so quickly that it becomes part of the stillness, instead of the break in it. At the end of the arcade, the road begins to slope upward. Here the paving stones are broader and smoother, and rain channels run like dark ribbons along the edges. A vine has claimed part of one wall, and its leaves hang in a shadowy curtain over a doorway where a lamp burns behind a thin screen. The glow spreads through the woven pattern in soft fragments, laying warm shapes across the threshold. A table cleared after supper, a jug set near a basin, quiet breathing from a back chamber, perhaps someone not yet asleep, but already at rest, listening to the same fountain murmur you hear now from the street. The climb is never steep enough to trouble you. It is only enough to slow you further, and in that slower pace, the city gives up more details. A clay oil jar left under an eave, a little altar shelf swept clean except for one low flame, the dry scent of herbs hanging from a beam, a shutter not fully latched, touching the wall now and then with the gentlest wooden tap. Rome at night is made of almost nothing, almost no movement, almost no voice, almost no demand at all, and yet it feels full, because rest itself has weight, and the whole city seems weighted now with sleep. Halfway up the rise, you come upon a courtyard house whose entrance stands open to the night. Not wide open, not inviting passage, only open enough that you can glimpse the quiet within. There is an inner pool holding a patch of reflected lamplight. There are plants set around it in dark clay containers. There is a low bench against the wall and a folded cloth draped over it, as if someone had sat there not long ago, letting the day ease out of their shoulders before finally going in. You do not linger. A single glance is enough. Some places are most soothing when seen only partially, when the imagination may rest inside them without needing every detail. The road reaches a terrace from which the roofs step away into shadow. Chimneys, beams, tiled edges, the simple lines of sleeping houses. All of it lies quiet beneath the soft darkness. Here the air changes again, touched by the faint coolness that gathers above open spaces after night has deepened. In the distance you can see a larger glow, where some public space still keeps a few lamps burning, but from here it does not feel busy or grand, it feels far and mild, another island of amber in a city slowly dimming itself. Closer by, a rooftop garden gives off the faint scent of damp earth. Somewhere unseen, water drips with long pauses between each drop. You follow the terrace wall until it curves around a smaller lane lined with brick and plaster. The houses here stand close together, and their doors are painted in muted colours, now turned almost indistinguishable by the dark. One lintel is garlanded with drying leaves, one window holds the last low ember of a lamp, one doorstep has been freshly washed, the water still darkening the stern. A city does not need noise to feel alive, it only needs evidence of care, and everywhere tonight there is care, in the swept thresholds, the covered jars, the tied shutters, the lamps turned low, instead of allowed to die on their own. Soon you come to a set of broad steps descending toward another lane, and on either side stand stone planters filled with narrow trees that barely stir. You go down slowly, one hand brushing the cool wall beside you, and each step seems to lower you further into calm. At the bottom, the air is warmer again, the sounds are closer again, water somewhere behind the wall, a faint creak of leather, the hush of a curtain settling back into place. Your own breathing, now unhurried enough to feel joined to the night around you. The lane bends beneath another arch, and there the light gathers in a soft golden half-circle on the pavement, as though the city itself has placed a quiet marker for you to pass through. Beyond it waits more shadow, more stone, more stillness, more of Rome giving itself over to rest. And as you continue, it becomes harder to tell whether you are moving through the city, or whether the city, in its slow and patient way, is moving around you, carrying you from one calm pocket of darkness to the next, teaching your mind to dim just as the lamps have dimmed, and to settle just as the courtyards, workshops, fountains, and homes have all settled around you. Now the walk draws you toward a quieter district, where the streets seem to fold inward, away from open space and back into intimacy. The lamps are fewer here, but each one matters more. Each one gathers a little world beneath it. A patch of stone, a section of wall, the rim of a basin, the edge of a doorway, the gentle shine on a bronze handle, polished by years of use. Between these islands of amber, there is shadow, but it is never harsh. It is soft shadow, lived-in shadow, the kind that belongs to familiar places after midnight. You pass a row of homes joined wall to wall, and the sameness of their facades is soothing rather than dull. Repetition has its own kindness. Door after door, lintel after lintel, step after worn step. A narrow bench here, a jar there, a hooked lantern, a trailing plant. The city seems to whisper that nothing extraordinary is required for peace. A house may be peaceful simply because its threshold has been swept. A street may be beautiful simply because someone turned a lamp low and left a bowl where moonlight could touch it. The simplest things hold the night together. Ahead, a small covered passage opens into a shared courtyard. You step through and find a square of stillness ringed by columns and sleeping rooms. In the center lies a shallow pool, not grand, only clear enough to hold the wavering reflection of one lamp burning under the eaves. The water does not splash. It only trembles now and then when a breeze crosses above it. On one side of the courtyard, folded garments rest on a stool waiting for morning. On another, a basket of figs has been covered with cloth. Near the far wall, a child's toy cart lies on its side, forgotten in play and left where evening interrupted it. Even this feels tender. The evidence that life here did not stop for ceremony, only for sleep. You continue under the columns, and every few steps the light shifts across the floor in long pale shapes. The stone carries the day's warmth more faintly now. Coolness is taking hold. From a room beyond a curtain comes the smallest suggestion of someone turning over in bed. Then stillness again. The sound is so brief that it does not feel intrusive. It only deepens the sense that all around you, behind plaster and wood and fabric, the city is breathing in slow unison. Leaving the courtyard, you enter a lane where vines climb over a wall high enough to hide the garden beyond. The leaves cast delicate shadows under a low lamp, and their edges gleam for an instant as you pass. Somewhere behind them, water pours from one basin into another, with a rhythm slower than speech. You imagine an inner garden with paving stones damp from evening watering, a bench under a tree, perhaps a little table left outside because the night is warm enough to trust. Rome gives you such glimpses without insisting that you take possession of them. A hint is enough. A suggestion is restful because it leaves the mind space to soften. The lane carries you onward to a broader street where a few public lamps remain lit. Here the paving is firmer underfoot and marked by the shallow shine of old ware. A statue niche stands empty in the dark, its outline only half visible, while nearby a drinking basin receives a steady thread of water from a carved mouth. You pause there, not to drink, only to listen. Water over stone, a leaf touching the surface and drifting away. The distant ring of metal from some unseen place where a gate has been checked for the night. These are not signals to wakefulness. They are the opposite. They are the sounds of a city making sure everything is settled. You pass a public bench set beneath a wall painting, faded almost to shadow. In daylight it might ask for notice. At night it asks for nothing. Night has a way of reducing every proud surface to the same humble softness. Painted wall, plain wall, carved stone, worn plaster. All of them become quiet shapes, holding pools of lamplight. And in that sameness, there is relief. The city does not need to impress you tonight. It only needs to carry you. Soon you find another flight of steps, but these are narrower, descending between close walls into a cooler hollow where the air smells faintly of damp earth and extinguished flame. A little way down, you pass a recessed doorway where the last wick in a clay lamp has just gone out, leaving only a thin line of smoke lifting into darkness. The warm scent of it hangs in the passage. A moment ago there was light. Now there is only the memory of light. Somehow that is even softer. Somehow the dark left behind by a lamp feels gentler than darkness that was never lit at all. At the bottom of the steps lies a lane so still that your footsteps seem almost too present, and yet after a few moments, even they fold into the quiet. A stack of amphorae leans against one wall, each shoulder catching the faintest curve of light. Beside there rests a coiled rope and a handcart drawn halfway under cover. Trade sleeps here, labor sleeps here. Tomorrow all of it will begin again, in voices and movement and weight. But tonight, even work has put its head down. Farther on, a bakery front stands shuttered, though through the smallest gap you catch the lingering scent of warm grain and ash. It has settled into the night, like everything else. Nearby, a millstone rests under an awning, half lit, half hidden. A broom has been propped against it. Flour dust still pales the ground near the threshold. These traces of labor do not make the street feel busy. They do the opposite. They make rest feel earned, deserved, complete. The whole neighborhood seems wrapped in the silence that follows usefulness. The lane ends at a wall broken by an archway, and beyond it a garden path runs beside a low colonnade. Cypress shapes rise in darkness. Gravel gives softly underfoot. A basin reflects one distant lamp and one star. Somewhere leaves touch each other overhead, with a sound like whispered linen. Here the city loosens again. Stone gives way to planted earth. Hard surfaces yield to shadowed branches and the slow shape of trimmed shrubs. You walk as if between breaths. You walk as if the night itself were making space for you. At the far end of the garden path, a small pavilion stands open on all sides. Inside, a table has been left with cups turned upside down to dry, and a folded cloth lies over one edge. No one remains, yet the place feels freshly inhabited, as though conversation only recently thinned into silence and drifted indoors. The air here is perfectly still. The lamps are low. The city seems farther away, though in truth it surrounds you on every side. You rest for a moment in that feeling, that Rome can be vast and yet intimate, layered and yet calm, full of human life and yet so quiet now that every thought in you has room to lie down. When you move on, you do so even more slowly than before. The night has done its work. The sharpness of the day has thinned. Your mind no longer reaches ahead. It only receives what is near: a cool wall, a warm lamp, a drifting scent of herbs, the hush of gravel, the breathing silence behind closed rooms. And Rome, generous in its stillness, keeps offering one gentle scene after another, not to excite you, not to teach you, only to let you keep drifting, deeper and softer, into rest. By now, the city feels less like a place you are crossing and more like a rhythm you have entered. Lamp, shadow, fountain, wall, doorway, silence. Again and again, the pattern returns. And with each return, your thoughts grow lighter, as though they no longer need to carry the weight of the day. Rome at night is teaching you this final lesson gently, that peace is often repetition, often familiarity, often the same soft elements arranged with such patience that the mind gives up resisting and simply rests inside them. You follow a long wall washed pale by old plaster, and at intervals, small niches appear in it, each holding either a lamp or darkness where a lamp once burned earlier in the evening. Some are empty except for a dish. Some hold a tiny offering of greenery, now gone nearly black in the night. Some are only shallow hollows gathering shadow. Yet every one of them feels cared for. Care remains even after light has faded. That may be why the street feels so calm. It has been tended into quiet. Ahead, the wall breaks into an opening framed by columns, and beyond it lies a broad courtyard attached to what feels like a place of gathering, now long since emptied for the night. Benches line the sides. A basin rests in the center. Steps rise at one end into deeper shadow. There are no voices here, no lingering crowd, no echo of public excitement. Only the afterpiece of a place that has completed its purpose for the day. The stone floor still holds a little stored warmth. The basin holds one long, trembling reflection. Somewhere near the roofline, a nightbird shifts once and is still. The great kindness of the scene is that nothing demands meaning. It is enough simply to be within it. You cross the courtyard at the slowest pace yet, and your sandals make the faintest dry sound over the paving. On one bench, someone has left a folded wrap. On another lies a clay cup turned on its side. Not abandoned, only forgotten until morning. The city keeps offering these small proofs that life is nearby, but asleep, paused but not gone. They comfort more than any grand certainty could. A forgotten rap is gentler than a proclamation. A cup left behind is more soothing than a speech. Rome at night is full of humble evidence that people have been here, have done what they needed to do, and have now given themselves permission to rest. From the far side of the courtyard, you pass into a corridor where the ceiling lowers and the air cools. The sound of water becomes clearer there. You follow it around a bend and find a long, narrow channel running beside the path, carrying dark water in a perfectly steady line. Lamps on the wall touch it at intervals, making one strip of brightness after another that appears and vanishes as the water moves on. You pause to listen. There is almost no sound but the low, continual slip of it. A sound so even and so untroubled that it feels like an invitation to breathe in time with it. So you do, in and out, while the water continues its quiet journey beside you, needing no witness, no praise, no destination beyond the gentle downward path it already knows. When you leave the channel behind, the route narrows once more between sleeping houses. Somewhere nearby, bread cools on racks behind a shutter. Somewhere, oil is being used by one last wakeful hand to lower the wick in a lamp. Somewhere, a mother draws a blanket higher over a child without waking them. You do not see these things directly, yet the streets seem to hold them. That is the softness of a night city. Its walls keep the warmth of unseen acts of care. Its thresholds keep the memory of footsteps returning home. Its courtyards keep the fading breath of conversation after voices are gone. A little farther on, you find a small garden enclosed by low walls and entered through a gate left partly open. Gravel receives your steps without echo. A cypress stands dark against the sky. A stone bench curves around a basin where floating leaves gather in one corner. The scent here is of damp earth, trimmed greenery, and the faint sweetness of flowers already closing for the night. On a table under a canopy, a lamp has nearly burned out. The flame is so low that it seems less like fire than like a thought of fire, but it is enough. It gives the cups beside it a soft edge. It gives the cloth on the table a warm fold of gold. It gives the garden the feeling of being watched over until the very end of the evening. You sit there in your mind for a moment, though the walk continues. You let the basin water hold still. You let the leaves rest against the stone. You let the lamp shrink lower and lower without rushing its ending. This is the pace the night has wanted from you all along. Not a march, not a story, not an arrival, only a gradual surrender into slower noticing, and because nothing has been asked of you, your thoughts no longer strain. They drift, they loosen, they become as quiet as the cups drying under the canopy, as still as the bench beside the basin, as calm as the cypress holding its dark shape in the air. The final part of the walk leads you back toward a familiar street, where the lamps are wider space now, and the shadows between them feel deep but friendly. A doorway stands half-lit, its threshold swept clean. A water jar rests against the wall. A small stool waits where someone will find it at dawn. Further on, the same fountain you heard earlier seems to appear again in another courtyard, or perhaps it is only another fountain speaking in the same voice. By now the distinction hardly matters. Everything in Rome has joined the same lullaby. Water over stone, light over plaster, leaves over wall, silence over everything. You pass beneath one last arch. Beyond it, the paving opens into a final square, no larger than a room left open to the sky. One lamp burns there. One tree leans over the edge of a basin. One upper window glows faintly behind a curtain. The city has reduced itself at the end of your walk to only what is necessary. A little water, a little light, a little shelter, a little sign that someone, somewhere above, is still awake or has only just settled into sleep. It is enough, more than enough. Peace rarely arrives in abundance. It arrives in small, sufficient things. So you remain there for a few quiet breaths, letting the square become simple around you, letting the day fall farther away, letting the sounds of Rome soften into one continuous hush. You have not needed to know names. You have not needed to keep track of roads. You have not needed to learn a single fact. You have only wandered through worn stone and dim fountains and patient doorways, while an ancient city folded itself into rest. And now, as the final lamp burns low and the water keeps speaking softly in the basin, you may let everything grow even quieter still. You may let Rome fade gently into shadow. You may let the arch, the courtyard, the columns, the workshops, the gardens, the little shrines, the sleeping homes, all drift together into one soft memory of amber light and cooling stone. And you may rest there, with nothing to follow, nothing to solve, and nothing left to do, except close your eyes, feel the calm of the night around you, and let yourself sink fully into sleep.